Hello everyone. Welcome to the very first YouTube video that I've ever shot thinking that I was going to do a YouTube video for a personal account. As you might be able to tell by the very first picture, as I started to take it, I felt very awkward doing it because I've never walked around kind of filming myself in a public location, which honestly I don't have a lot of shots in this video of myself because it's not pretty. Anyways, I'm in Toronto Airport here, and I'm getting ready to go off on a little bit of an adventure. I'll talk a little bit more about the adventure and why I decided to do it as I go on. But very quickly, like magic, as I walk to my airplane here, all of a sudden I'm in New York. And that was a nice early morning flight. My flight left at 6:20 a.m. and I was there by like 8 o'clock, just around 8 o'clock. I did get humor out of that Uber animals sign, FYI. I had to include it. For those that don't travel very often, I'm very carefree when I travel. I basically just flew into the airport in LaGuardia and basically went around, looked for a bus, found a bus, took the bus into the city, and I realized where I was on the bus, and I decided not to get out where the guy told me, and I got out in Harlem and walked over to Central Park because I had until 4 p.m. until I could check into my hotel, and I just brought a backpack, basically traveling extremely light, and it was great. I walked over to Central Park, then I started walking through, and you can see some absolutely beautiful sights here. Absolutely beautiful day to start my trip in New York. I can't believe how trusting this guy is. I just met him and he asked me to watch his stuff, including a Switch, as a Nintendo Switch, and his phone and all his belongings. So can't say that there's nobody trusting in New York. I didn't think I could walk in here at first as it's under restoration, but I remember the last time I was in New York that this was a really beautiful spot, so I thought I'd come have a peek. Definitely how I remember it as far as really nice. There's so many good parts to Central Park, and this is definitely a must-see spot. You gotta love the care and the effort and the details that they take in making Central Park a tourist attraction, but also a place where locals can actually feel like they have a little bit of nature at the same time. They do such a great job at making it a little bit for tourists, a little bit for locals. I'm sure locals try to stay away from it, but it is a great spot. Unfortunately, some of the pathways and areas are closed for construction, but I have got to walk it all before in the past, so we're just gonna have to make some detours. I was hoping, and I'm happy that there's a little bit of character still for the fall season, because I'm kind of coming a little bit late, but a little bit early to get the Christmas season, which is on my bucket list. I absolutely want to come to New York for Christmas at some point, see everything lit up. But when I was coming at this time of year, I was hoping that there'd still be some color and some leaves on the trees. Not a huge amount of color, but still very pretty, and it's a lot nicer than seeing them all without the leaves. It's been 8 years, I think, since the last time I was here, and you really forget about some of the little nooks and crannies and the beauty of Central Park. Got a little waterfall right over here. Can't really see it from this picture, but I'll include one. You can actually hear the birds and chirping more than the construction, which is actually pretty nice. Okay, this picture is definitely not doing this tree justice. It's beautiful, it's huge. Again, just a cool little detail to the park here. It's so neat. Just some beautiful little spots here. Try not to bounce too much here. I do like some of these little tunnels underneath the bridges. They were one of my biggest takeaways the first time I walked down in New York in Central Park. There's a little hidden tunnels. I think that's the nicest of the little falls I've seen so far. Again, this is one of my first attempts to do an actual YouTube video where I planned on taking some of the footage that I was gonna take and put it into a video. And I did realize every once in a while I should probably show myself, but again, it's a scary sight, so probably not as much as I should do to make these videos captive. But if I keep doing them, hopefully I'll get a little more comfortable and get better at using the camera in public and stuff like that, because it's a new experience. But after I finished Central Park, I went up to the main area. I did forget a couple of things on my trip, like, you know, a memory card for the other camera I had, so that's why I've used my phone for so much video up until this point. I did go get a memory card, and then I was able to use the other camera. And also the charger I brought for my phone didn't actually work in the battery packs I brought as a backup, so I had to run up and pay tourist prices to get some things I had at home because I forgot. So I'm definitely an amateur at this whole YouTube video thing, but I definitely enjoyed the walk, and I had to get into the M&M store. One of my friends made me go here on a trip in the past, and now every time I go to New York, I just want to go to the M&M store, as well as like the Disney store, which I do later. Bad influences of some of my friends by showing me all of these places. I actually like going with some different people at different times, because you do go to places that I had never gone before. But I got a kick out of the M&M store. I also like M&M, so kind of goes hand in hand. Definitely added some of those Christmas ornaments to my tree. M&M store, including some gifts I got for some people, probably was my most expensive stop of the entire time. I actually came back 2 more times because they had a really neat novelty area where you could take someone's image and put it on an M&M, and I did that for some family members and a friend, and I tried to come back another night to do one more that I wanted to add to it, and it was so insanely busy that I'm like, nope, forget it, I'm out. But we get to the evening, I've checked into my hotel, and now it's time for the reason I came to New York. So I looked at how long it would take me to take a subway to where I was going and how long it would take me to walk, and I decided I didn't want to miss the New York experience, so I decided to walk an hour to get to where I needed to get to, just because I didn't want to miss the sights and the sounds, because you don't come to places like this that often. So I walked an hour, and it was great. I did stop off at this gentleman here, and he made me a fantastic dinner. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I actually want to say this was possibly my favorite meal of the entire time. Anyhow, as I carried on and made my way down, got to see some sights and sounds. I was happy, as I mentioned, bucket list item, see New York City at Christmas time. So Macy's obviously lit up as an iconic scene. Some of the little parks, some of the little things are already decorated. And even over the 3 days I was there, you could see a little more Christmas popping up. The first day I was there, the Disney store, which I mentioned, was actually fully closed, and you couldn't go in there, which right away I'm like, they're setting up Christmas. So I made sure to go there before I left. I can't remember the park that I'm coming up on, the name of it at least. But it was a really neat spot, and apparently a lot of artistic people go there and hang out, and you'll see groups of people doing some poetry and some other artists and some just other people that are hanging out there. Apparently it was close to like one of the universities or something, I can't remember exactly. Um, at first when I was walking through it, I definitely was taken by how many people were hanging out there and just having a good time. And by looking at the water fountain and just the atmosphere there, you can understand why it's such a hot spot for youth to hang out. Well, I finally made it to my destination, La Passion Rouge, which I found out the next day. This is a very popular spot historically in New York for musicians to come and play and hang out. And I will say it had a great atmosphere. It won't come across as much in the video on my little cell phone, but I will say the atmosphere was absolutely fantastic. Once it filled up, it was incredible.
When I was living in Austin, Texas, Willie was 1 mile up the street off of Fitzhugh Road, man. And this little guy used to come over and hang out with my little guy, and so I got to meet Willie Nelson. So I figured that was better than Ed Sullivan or Elvis Presley.
This gentleman's name was Lee Ving. He was opening up for Duff McKagan, and it was really entertaining and fun to watch him, even though I didn't know his material. But he did sing some things I knew of.
I love that old liquor store would be out of the king. Boy, that's one important thing that they just had not talked about. One thing would be in heaven, living you had to do.
One thing you find out really fast about Lee is he loves his beer. Almost all of his songs were love songs to beer. He definitely has a thing.
I'm just a shooting some hot suds, but there's a bum at the bubbly brew, don't know. And I'm a rebel man. I'm a rebel man. Spent the night in jail in a Wilcox hotel. And I don't care about you. I don't care about you.
This song was easy for me to go along with because Guns N' Roses had covered it many years ago on the Spaghetti Incident, and I'm sure Lee might have been the inspiration for them to cover that, even though I know it was sung prior to Lee. As much as I enjoyed Lee, it's time for Duff McKagan, the man I came all the way to see.
Give me sight to walk me home.
Definitely is. This is a learning experience for me, and I know you can't play too much of the actual music full blast, otherwise you'll get flagged by YouTube. But I'm not really worried about getting demonetized like most YouTubers, because there's not going to be enough people watching this to be demonetized. But that being said, I'm trying to give a little bit of a taste and a little bit of a feel. But one thing that's for sure, you can't feel the way that room felt just through a cell phone. The moment the door opened on the side, you could feel Duff's presence. There's not a lot of people that play in different bands that can just change the whole feel of a room the way he did. I've seen literally hundreds of concerts. And for those of you who don't know, Duff is the bassist for Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses is my longest running favorite band ever since I was a teenager. And I've basically seen everyone from Slash solo, Slash with Miles Kennedy, Slash with the Blues Balls, which is his blues band. I've seen Axl with his solo Guns N' Roses. I've seen Axl play for AC/DC. Duff is probably the third head of the original Guns N' Roses members that are left. I've never actually been able to see him play live, and it was just coincidence that a week and a half before this happened, I just decided to look it up and see if he was playing. And I found out that he was playing both in New York and Boston, which were doable for me. And shockingly, New York was just way cheaper to go to than Boston was. The flights were more than half the price, which I'm assuming is because so many people go from Toronto to New York. And then I just started looking into it, and I just found great deals on everything. I found a great place to stay in Times Square as far as cost-wise. Found a great flight. Everything just kind of fell into place, and within a week and a half, I ended up here, and an absolutely phenomenal day, beginning to end, was spectacular.
It's time for forgiveness, I think we've truly missed till now. Blackened days, we've lost our way. So gather round, he's lost and found.
One of the things I found amazing over the last basically 10 years is the change in the members of Guns N' Roses, as well as the change in how we looked at so many people from the 80s and 90s. And Guns N' Roses were the bad boys. They were the people you didn't trust, the people that were going to do all these wrong things. And as time has changed, they're actually the good guys now, which is just amazing that other people that we looked up to in the 80s, like Bill Cosby, more retro day as far as Hulk Hogan, just they turned into not as nice people. And yet the bad boys of the 80s and 90s all actually turned into pretty much outstanding citizens, and are the people that I can look up to more so than some of those other people from the 80s and 90s that I grew up watching. It's funny how times change.
Me too, man. This guy's a saint. God bless him. It'll be over. So hang in there, motherfuckers. All three of you girls. Sit tight.
Just kind of adding to the Duff's a really good guy. You could just see the admiration he had for leaving, and it's always nice when you see musicians or people that have had a lot of success giving tribute to those that came before them and that inspired them. As well as Duff actually gave a really nice shout out to his wife. I knew from listening to some Sirius XM shows that Duff had done. There was a Mother's Day one in particular that he had done with his wife, and I had known some different little bit of background story, and I knew how loyal and what a good man he was towards his wife and how much he appreciated her. And he actually took the time in the middle of the concert just to give her a huge shout out. She wasn't at all of the shows, but she was at this show, and you could tell how much he appreciated it, and he made sure to let her know. And it's really nice to see someone in that stature really expressing himself and showing gratitude, where a lot of people, when they get that famous, that big, they just take people for granted and don't appreciate the little things. And you could really see those little things, as well as some of those shows that I had listened to, especially the Mother's Day one. She had actually taught me a little bit about Guns N' Roses that I didn't know, and one of the things that she had kind of pointed out is how they always ended with Paradise City, and they just continue to play until they basically feel like stopping, so they don't actually stop at the same time. And one of the things I started watching every time I saw Guns N' Roses after that was how much the guys played off of each other, and you could see them paying attention to the individuals and the people that were playing the music around them. And one of the things throughout this concert, I could really see Duff really tuned into different musicians that were playing. There's certain times I could tell like he was paying a little more attention to, say, the bassist, to the guitar player, the drummer, but you could just tell how in tune he was to every member of it. And to me, as someone that's non-musical, that is just an incredible skill that someone is able to do, and to be able to perform, sing, play guitar, and yet still know 100% what's going on with every single member of the band. I thought that was incredible. One of the things I was looking forward to the most was to actually hear this song. It's not my favorite Guns N' Roses song, but out of all the times I've seen Axl's version of Guns N' Roses, which was, I want to say, 8 times, and I've seen the reunited version of Guns N' Roses, including Duff and Slash, another 4 times. I've seen Slash so many times, and he always plays a lot of the more original Guns N' Roses songs. I have actually never heard this song live. It's not my favorite Guns N' Roses song, but I do enjoy it, and I just love getting to hear some songs I don't get to hear every day. That's one of the things I really do like seeing the solo bands for, because each and every one of them will play a little bit different songs of the original Guns N' Roses lineup. This is the only song that he played from Guns N' Roses, minus getting to hear I Don't Care About You by Lee. But that being said, it's just great. I love Duff's music. Duff's music is absolutely fantastic. I had a great time with that. But this was just like a little bit of icing on top of the cake that I was so happy about. As much as I'm a huge Guns N' Roses fan, I'm really big into Duff's music as well. I have all of his albums. I definitely noticed I was definitely not his biggest fan. Like, everyone around me literally had him as their phone saver on their phone, which definitely made me think that they were bigger fans than I am, because I do not have him on my cell phone as a cover. But The energy was just spectacular. Again, it doesn't come through on the phone, but that was probably up there with my absolute favorite concerts I've ever been to in my life, just because of the energy, the feel, everything in that room was spectacular. I saw Slash and the Blues Balls earlier this year, and between those two concerts were my absolute favorite concerts of the year, and I saw a lot of good ones. I saw some really emotional, kind of heartstrings bands from like the 90s and 2000s this year that I hadn't seen in a long time and just really enjoyed, but yet these two were my absolute favorite shows of the entire year.
You know you are. You're really down.
And just like that, after getting up at 3 a.m. in the morning to fly to New York to see Duff McKagan, it was over. And I was still pumped. And my plan was, after walking Central Park all day, walking Times Square, just walking all over, and then walking an hour back to see the concert and see Duff, I was going to take the subway back. But I was so pumped and just had such a great time, I decided that I was going to walk that hour back. And it was quite fun. And that was a great way to finish day one. Day two starts off with a little breakfast in Times Square, and this little guy decided to nibble up my feet. And just about now is when he decided to actually bite my feet, and definitely caught me off guard because I wasn't paying attention with him anymore. Breakfast was just some street meat, so I figured I needed a little donut to go with that street meat. This is a breakfast at Champions. So I went into Krispy Kreme and, just did some regular sightseeing because I wasn't in a rush. And because I was a little bit tired from the day before, I thought a bus tour would be great. I had never done a bus tour before. And the first place we go to is the New York Public Library, which I find fascinating, not because I'm into books, because anyone that knows me, I'm not. It's because they shot parts of Ghostbusters there. Empire State Building. So I was actually a little tempted to go to the Empire State Building. I looked up and saw the guys cleaning the outside, and that's just one of those things where you just have to take your hats off to how brave these people are that clean some of those buildings that are that high. I enjoyed the bus tour. I didn't really take too many more pictures for a good chunk of the bus tour, but I ended up back in Times Square because I was getting hungry and I thought it would be some time for some traditional New York pizza, which did not disappoint. When I was on the bus tour, I decided that I wanted to go back and check out Winter Village, Brant Park, as that they had set up the Christmas tree already, the ice rink already, and I just thought it was way more charming. I've seen it in the summer in the past, but I've never actually seen it getting closer to winter, and it's just so much nicer at this time of year. Summer, it was whatever. But this time of year, it just adds that charm, and again, bucket list Christmas, New York. One of my bucket list items, Christmas in New York. Not quite there, but I'm getting some trees. Well, since I was already there and about to leave, again, New York Library, Ghostbusters, I had to actually walk up and see the statues that come to life in Ghostbusters. I guess I could have walked into the library, but yeah, I just really wanted to see the lions outside. Let's be honest, that's what matters. At this point in the evening, I was just making my way back to Times Square. I wanted to go back to the hotel, get settled, because I had tickets to see a comedy show that is just by the edge of Times Square, Broadway Comedy Club, and it did not disappoint. Obviously, I didn't take a film or a video while I was in there. I did end up being joked about in the show, but I am totally good with that. Whatever makes the show funnier, I am all for. I've seen one other comedy show in New York, and it was one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. This was up there. The closer kind of bombed, and he kind of knew it. But the openers did a fantastic job. I've seen little clips of some of them online previously. So after the comedy show, I decided that I was going to walk back to Winter Village just to see some of that Christmas items and events all lit up. Right here by Radio City, there was a food stand that had a massive lineup. And honestly, I wanted to see if the food was that good, but the lineup just wasn't worth it. There had to have been at least 300 people in the line, so it had to have been good. But I was also full, and to stand in a line at that point, not happening. So I made my way to Winter Village.
At nighttime, looking nice, but unfortunately the tree is not lit up. But we're gonna walk that way anyways and have a look. The skating rink might look nice at nighttime, even though the tree's not lit. As well as the water fountain. A lot more people skating though today. Or I should say tonight.
As a huge Blue Jays fan, Tom Cheek and Jerry Howard had big inspirations on me and my life. Jerry Howard is actually the only person I've ever ran into in my life, and I was speechless. And I've ran into a fair number of famous people and been able to talk up a storm. Yeah, I wasn't. I froze. I'm like, hi. And he totally gave me an opportunity to talk, and I froze. But one of the things I've taken from them, and I've tried to do it a little bit in this video, is certain moments, like going through Winter Village there, is just to let the sounds and the moments tell the story versus me trying to talk over it. Final day, and definitely saw this guy outside the hotel when I was leaving, which was a sign of protest, and I made it to the Disney store finally just to see their Christmas setup. I did enjoy just the Christmas feel. And coming up next, they actually had trees representing Marvel, trees representing Star Wars, and they had a beautiful display as you entered the building. It was fantastic. I quite enjoyed it. I was pretty tired again, so I actually just jumped on the bus, did another tour, and came back to Times Square, had a nice chicken burger because I'd been eyeing it for a couple days because it was really close to where I was. And just like that, it was over. But I am going to let you watch this little outro thanks to LaGuardia Airport. And they missed me. They were so happy to see me.
Take care.
You too.
You filming it?
Yeah,
I did too.
first time seeing it. You never know if I'll see it again. Have a good one.
Go see it.